Hello. Can you all hear me all right? Yeah? Great. Well, thank you for having me. You'll get your moment, Grandma. I'm Elizabeth Gansen. I am Shirley Dickinson's only granddaughter. I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you for having me, Grandma. Thank you for joining me, everyone. I'm so excited that I get to share my story with all of you. And before I kind of dive into my big adventure that I had in Tanzania, I thought I'd share just briefly why I fell in love with traveling. And some of it actually started with Grandma Shirley. When I was in college, I actually studied at the University of Iowa, so it's really fun to be back here. I live in Los Angeles now, but happy to be here for the weekend. And my senior year of college, I studied abroad in Galway, Ireland, and had the privilege of Grandma coming to visit me. There are lots of fun photos I wish I could share with you. Grandma and I had the best time. And her and my parents actually got to tour around Ireland a bit, and while I was there for a whole semester, I got to really kind of explore some major cities of Western Europe, and it just totally opened my eyes. As kids, we didn't do much traveling. Growing up in Minnesota, most of our time was spent on the water, going to cabins. So this moment in my early adulthood was just really profound and opening my eyes, really learning people and food and nature, and just being exposed to that was so exciting, and it really kind of opened the can of worms for me. A few years later, I started my career, burned out pretty hard, told my boss I wanted to quit my job, and he was like, "Don't do that, just take time away, and promise you'll come back." So I left for 2 months and did New Zealand, Australia, and Myanmar, all very different places, all very different experiences. And that was really what just solidified everything for me, particularly Myanmar. I had never been to the Asian continent. It was just a completely different experience, meeting people who come from such different backgrounds, such different ways of life in every way. It was just wild, and they were so hospitable and kind. I traveled alone, and you learn so much traveling alone. You learn so much about yourself, what makes you feel uncomfortable, what makes you feel comfortable, what food you like to eat. You can have French fries for dinner and no one's there to tell you should do that. I just had the best time, and so I'm skydiving, I'm backpacking along the New Zealand coast, just learning so much, again, about myself and what challenges I can face when I just put my mind to it. But Myanmar was the really crazy, eye-opening experience. I still stay in touch with the woman, Soso, who really kind of took me under her wing. I stayed at her bed and breakfast. We ended up watching movies together and going out to eat together. It's just lovely, and again, it's just such a profound way to educate yourself, and I just really fell in love with learning about the world this way. It's almost like reading, the way it opens your imagination and your heart and your mind, and when you read about the news, you get to just apply these things that you've learned, everything. It's just so beautiful. And then the pandemic hit, and I started doing all these geography quizzes. I have no idea why. I don't know where that little nerdism came from, but I just found this little website online where I just started taking quizzes about all the countries in the world. Like, oh, what's that? I've never heard of Sao Tome and Principe. They're 2 little islands off the coast of Africa. Maybe I should go there one day. And my mind just started opening up and going crazy of like all the places that we never talk about, where there's people and nature and ways of life and religions and ways of doing things. And yeah, when I really started taking to Africa as I pushed myself to learn about these places, and thought, especially in the pandemic, like, this is our one life to live. We have to capture that now. The time is now. I need to travel now. So in the pandemic, I booked a trip to Africa, and it unfortunately got canceled. I was going to go with REI, but they stopped doing their international adventures. I was going to do Botswana and South Africa and ride my bike through the wineries and go on safari. And when that canceled, I was so bummed, and I was like, wait, plenty of other places go to Africa. Plenty of other tour groups do this. And so while I was researching, I saw this one tour that was focused only in the country of Tanzania. And I thought, oh boy, why would I ever do such a thing? It was about a week of hiking Mount Kilimanjaro, a week in safari in the Serengeti and a couple other national parks, followed by beaching in Zanzibar. Now, again, I don't really know why I did it, but I did. I was like, I gotta summit this mountain, and then I will get to just kind of wind the trip down after that. And so I booked it, I committed myself to it, and I have to say, I didn't really think much about the trip other than summiting the world's largest freestanding mountain. That was very daunting, but like I said, I live in California, where training for that was very easy. Plenty of summits in my own backyard. So I spent all of summer of 2022 getting ready for Kilimanjaro, summiting Mount Baldy and Mount Cucamonga, among some others, and then Mount Whitney, which is the tallest mountain in the continental United States, so that does not include Alaska. Got to hike Mount Whitney and summit that with my best friend and a couple of our other friends. And that was a big moment for me. Ever since I moved to Los Angeles, I said, I really need to hike that mountain, but it's so intimidating, 14,500 feet, oh my gosh. And you start to feel it in your head. The air really gets thinner up there, but we did it, and that's when I knew, like, okay, I can do this. If I put my mind to it, I got this. So yeah, that was my summer of 2022, and then just a few weeks after that, I landed in Moshi, and I just learned that my friend here has also been to Tanzania, so I'm excited to share these stories together. It was exhausting. I landed in the Kilimanjaro airport, and 24 hours later, we have our backpacks on, and we're starting the hike. And I have to say, one of the things I'm most excited to share with you is the people of Tanzania and these tour guides, and you'll hear more as we kind of go through some of the stories, but they're just the most warming, welcoming, beautiful souls, and they deserve like a documentary. They deserve so much praise in life. So, we have all these backpacks full of all of our like cold weather gear and our hiking poles and our soft shoes for when we arrive at camp, and they're carrying all of that for you. Not only are they carrying that, they're carrying all the food, they're carrying fresh eggs, they're carrying hot chocolate. I mean, the service was just truly unbelievable, and they're carrying up to 50 pounds, some on their heads, some on their shoulders. They're passing you as you're hiking this mountain. They're hiking it faster than you while carrying all of this. All I had to carry was my water and some snacks. So it was truly just heroic, the effort these mostly men, but some women were going through. So it started out super bright-eyed, bushy-tailed. I got this, it's just another hike. But let me tell you folks, summiting mountains is not like hiking. Summiting mountains is its own major challenge. But what's interesting about Kilimanjaro is just all these different zones you go through. Ecological and the temperatures. I mean, it was really, really profound. So kind of, especially starting out in the rainforest, it's just such beautiful, vibrant, lush energy. Monkeys, water, but you quickly hike out of that. And so I think this was day 2, still feeling very optimistic. It was also a very short day of hiking. We got to camp. So again, all the guides are hiking past you, and by the time you get to camp, everything is set up. And this gentleman on the left here, he was kind of my personal, honestly, he became my homie, but he was really the guy looking after me. He would always make sure my bag made it to my tent, And he would come and he would take my boots off for me, make sure I got my sandals for camp. And he was just the loveliest. He, because my name's Elizabeth, he would always call me Queen. So whenever he saw me, he would say, "My Queen!" He was so charming, so lovely. And yeah, we got to camp this day, and everyone went on kind of like a side hike, side adventure, and I was like, hell no, I'm taking a nap. So I slept in the tent while everyone else kept walking. And that was the last of the easy days. And even then, it wasn't easy. Oh, and I have to say, this Swahili saying here, "Poa kachizi kamandizi danya friji," means cool as a banana in the freezer. And it was something the guides were insistent on teaching me. And anytime my spirits got down, especially as the hike went on, they made sure that we could do a little dance and say "Poa kachizi kamandizi danya friji." So come find me afterwards if you want to learn that one. But yeah, they were amazing, and if I'm not mistaken, the guides on Kilimanjaro, I mean, that's some of the best income you can make in Tanzania. It's just it pays so well. The labor is unbelievably intensive, but it allows for them to go support for their families who might not come from very much. So the way these people persevere, and especially with such a beautiful attitude, is just incredible. And this lady right here, her name was Celine. She was one of the very few females you saw going up there. She was absolutely lovely. And then day 3 felt like this. I broke a little bit. I got a chest cold, and I was like hacking. It was awful. My sleeping bag broke, so I couldn't even zip it up around me, and this is when it really started to get cold. The air starts getting thinner. I mean, it's just wild. People do this for fun. Really silly. In fact, a lot of the people in my group are on a mission to hike every highest summit in every continent. And I was like, I think I'm good after this. So yeah, day 3 was really when it hit me pretty hard, physically and mentally. And turns out your spirits and your mental strength are kind of all you have to carry you through this. I mean, at the end of it, I ended up meeting a gentleman who does, like Ironman and marathons, and he's incredibly strong. He cried, so that made me feel a little better. And then they served us this food. They called that pizza. It was the night of day 3, third night. I'm exhausted, I feel awful, and they're like, "We're serving pizza!" And this is what I got. I was like, oh my God, that's not pizza. You can't tease us like that. But I have to say, when you're in that state, any food, any sustenance is just so welcome. And I have to say, their hospitality and the amount of food they fed us was unbelievable. And again, the fact that they're carrying this on their backs just to take care of you. I mean, hot chocolate. When you arrive and you're cold and you're exhausted, they give you a little welcome treat of hot chocolate. It's just unbelievable. I heard a story. I mean, I have to believe it's true. It's just hard to. I think it was the 3rd or 4th night, one of the guides, ran down the mountain and then back up because something happened with some of the food. And so he had to go all the way back down and up just to take care of people. Unbelievable strength. Oh, and then I made it. But let me tell you a story. Again, this is to shine a light on the beauty of the Tanzanians. But we hiked day 4. We got back to camp about 6. They fed us. We went to bed at 8 p.m. and then they woke us up at 11 p.m. to get ready to summit. And we start hiking at midnight. It's exhausting. I think in my summit photo here, I am wearing 4 layers of pants and 6 layers on top. Just absolutely frozen. And you're exhausted, not only from hiking for 4 days straight, but then through the night. And the guides are just so high energy. And they're singing these beautiful Swahili songs. And you're above the clouds, so the stars are unlike anything you've ever seen. And then the moon rises, and then the sun rises. and it's just breathtaking. It is so amazing. Some people are literally falling asleep while they're walking, but I have to say, I'm choked up even just thinking about it, but making it to the top when you think you can't, and then you finally are there and you're like, yes, I did it! But again, don't let this photo on the left fool you. This is how I actually felt inside. It was just so hard, but it was so rewarding. And just, again, being above the clouds and being able to capture moments like this when these glaciers were going to disappear in my lifetime. I had never seen a glacier before. It was amazing. Again, breathtaking is the only word I can think. And this was my guide. So on summit night, everyone's kind of assigned their own personal person to make sure that you make it up there, that they can take your bag if you need just some of that relief, if something goes wrong, that they're there to help you get down. I wish I could remember his name, but it's totally escaping me right now, but he was just so lovely. I could not have done it without him. It got to a point where we were just like, that's the fastest I could move up that summit. But like I said, it was so worth it. And then you forget you have to come down. So we started at midnight. I finally summited at 10 a.m. and then go back down to camp, take a quick nap, and then keep going down the mountain. But then the next day, we were back on our cell phones, calling our family, telling them we made it, to our showers. I have to say, I did not get a warm shower. After all this, I got a cold shower, but you know what? Any shampoo in my hair just felt really great. And I've hinted at this a little bit, but the biggest thing for me was just knowing that I did this, thinking I couldn't. It just proved to me that I can do anything, and anyone can do anything if they really just set their heart and mind to it. And yet again, just one more reason I love traveling. And this was our group. Turns out I was actually the only American, believe it or not. Lots of Canadians, Australians, English. This here is before and after. Happy to be on the ground. And I toured with a company called G Adventures. They are a partner of National Geographic. And G Adventures does a lot of the kind of like more rugged and adventurous travel. But they do a lot of philanthropic kind of work and make sure that when they're taking these groups out to countries or even on domestic travel, that they're making sure there's some for good component in it. And so we got to tour some local villages and just really learn about the local lifestyles. So a few stories from that. This woman here, she toured us around her little village, just walking around the rice fields, and we ended up here where this was the best meal I had in Tanzania, no question. Lots of stews and spices. Zanzibar, which I'll share with you in just a little bit here, is known for their spice trade. So a lot of warm, comforting spices. I love food, I love eating, and this meal was so lovely. A lot of the produce here was local, and then one of the local mamas, she cooked it right here on her stove, which was just eye-opening and insane, but so lovely. And again, just the hospitality was incredible. And after having all that camp food on the mountain, I was very excited to be eating this meal. And one of our other for good moments was we went to another little village where there's a lot of Maasai people. And we learned a lot about that culture. The Maasai people are on the move pretty much their whole life. And they live in these little huts. And one of the things, some of the proceeds from Nat Geo and G Adventures goes to is helping, move forward some of these like lifestyle projects or issues that they find in these communities, whether it's water, or in this example, these families live in these very tiny huts, much smaller than this projector screen, and they cook meals in there. But a lot of those huts don't have chimneys, and so the smoke is just building up in there, and these families and children are inhaling this smoke. And so some of these proceeds will go to these communities where they can install these stoves and chimneys with proper ventilation for just a healthier lifestyle. So it was really cool. It was very rough, especially that particular village. We got to meet some of the families and see the children playing, and we went from one hut with no stove or vent to another one that did have the chimney, and it was alarming. It was quite shocking, but sometimes travel is really good in that way. It can open your eyes to things you just aren't expecting, and again, learning how other people around the world live their lives, and knowing that there are people out there trying to advance these parts of their lives it's really moving. So yeah, it was really good to sneak some of that in between all these crazy adventures, and because G Adventures, I think, does target a bit of a younger audience. They keep you moving and busy and tired. We got down from Kilimanjaro and out of the showers by like 9 p.m. and we were on the road by 8 a.m. the next day, first stopping here, and then we were safariing the next day, and then the day after that we were in Serengeti National Park. I was so distracted by hiking Kilimanjaro, I did not even think about the safari. And ladies and gentlemen, it was wild. So the first thing we see when we get into the park is a lioness eating a gazelle, and it kind of smells. And just the landscape of the Serengeti, I hadn't anticipated at all. Again, my mind was so set on this mountain, I wasn't thinking about a real-life Lion King. And it was just extraordinary. I had never done anything like this before. We're seeing all these different animals. The giraffes are everywhere. I think I cried when I saw my first giraffe. I was so excited. It's just, you can't, my friend and I here were just talking about this, you can't really prepare yourself for that feeling of seeing these extraordinary animals for the first time. And then we got to camp. And again, I hadn't really thought about it. Right now I'm just so in awe of the beauty and the vastness of the Serengeti. And this photo on the right here was me outside of my tent, but also there was just like this beautiful thunder and lightning storm like way off in the horizon. Again, just the vastness of the plains was really something to take in. And the sun is setting, it's exciting, it's beautiful, and then night falls. And I have my tent mate, Lily, who I shared a tent with up in Kilimanjaro as well, and now we're in the Serengeti together. And I did not know Lily, I just met Lily in Tanzania for the first time, and this is our first night in the Serengeti, and we started to go to bed, and then I wake up in the middle of the night to what I thought was the sound of an elephant, and then I hear all this like grunting and snorting, and something is right next to my head. And I was like, what the hell am I doing? And I just tried to play a song, some of my like comfort music in my head, like breathing, focusing on meditating, like they wouldn't just put us here if like something bad was gonna happen. They do this all the time, everything's okay. I don't have nothing to be worried about. I finally fall back asleep. And then I don't even know how much longer later, I wake up again to the sound of more just like, stuff like bumping into the tent. And I'm just like, ladies and gentlemen, I've never been so scared in my life. My body was like paralyzed. I ended up waking Lily up. I couldn't move. I was just like, Lily. And she's like, what are you afraid of? And I was like, oh, I don't know, like getting trampled. Are you afraid? And she was like, I guess of being like gorged, but not really. And I was like, oh my God, Lily! It was just so terrifying. I honestly don't know how I fell back asleep. But the great news is I had a very exciting morning and I got to wake up at 5 a.m. So I didn't have to keep sleeping that much longer and be afraid in my tent because I had a sunrise hot air balloon ride over the Serengeti. Oh, sorry, this is the lioness. She's eating the gazelle. She really marked her territory there. Sorry, I'm realizing some of these photos are out of line with my story, but just the vastness and the beauty of the Serengeti. The giraffes, they were my favorite animal, along with the warthog. I really liked the warthogs. They're just as funny as they are in Lion King, and they just kind of coexist with everyone, and they're super cool. Get yourself a warthog if you can. These guys smelled really bad. The hippos were everywhere, but they were really quite charming at the same time. Lots of hippos, yes. Yeah, this is one of my favorite photos. It was just so beautiful. And I think because I didn't really think about the Serengeti ahead of time, it just struck me in a really awesome way. Okay, back to my story. So I'm terrified in my tent, but I get to wake up early for a hot air balloon ride at sunrise. I had never been in a hot air balloon before, so I was really excited about that, but also I am a very big lover of champagne. So following the hot air balloon ride was a champagne breakfast in the Serengeti. So we go up in the balloon ride. I have so many photos and videos from up there. I wanted to show them all to you. I got some really beautiful footage of like herds of elephants and buffalo, the giraffes. Again, and just the backdrop of the Serengeti with these animals was outstanding, and like, the sun is rising, and it's like, what is life? You know, I kept thinking of my coworkers back in the States, thinking like, that sucks. Look at my Tuesday morning. So something I didn't know was that champagne and hot air balloon rides have a long history, and I can't repeat it to you because frankly I don't remember, for reasons you'll understand in just a moment when I tell you the story. But our first glass of champagne is right when we get off the hot air balloon ride. They're kind of like, they're greeting you with it, and they're there to tell you the story. Something about like a king of France. And he calls himself a pilot. The balloon pilot noticed everyone got distracted, and they're like, oh, like, what are you seeing? There was a family of cheetahs, like way off in the distance. I can't tell you how far. So he's like, all right, everybody, into the vehicles. So we got into our 2 safari vehicles and go over to these cheetahs. It's a mother and her 3 cubs. I took my champagne, oh sorry, I'm all out of order here. Look at this cute little giraffe in the distance. That was the other hot air balloon that went up with us. Oh, I forgot I put this in here. Yeah, here's the elephants. Elephants are incredibly smart, and they were very terrified of the balloon, especially because it makes a lot of noises. Here it is. It's Tuesday morning at 8 o'clock. I have a full glass of champagne in the safari vehicle, and we approach these cheetahs, and again, it's a mother and her 3 cubs, and they, ladies and gentlemen, are like pawing the roof of the car. They're playing underneath it. These 3 little babies are just having the time of their life, running all around us, like rolling in the grass. I mean, just the proximity to them was wild. And again, here I am with my champagne at 8 a.m. on a Tuesday. I'm like, what is happening? Especially after the rocky night I had. This was just such an exciting way to feel alive. So yeah, we sat here for about 20 minutes with the cheetahs running all over us. It's just quite unbelievable. And then I think they were putting on a show for us. And then I think they got bored. So they kind of ran away, and then we went off to breakfast. And it was just incredible. There are these huge banquet tables set up for us in the middle of the Serengeti, and all of these waiters in like this gorgeous uniform serving us like a full-blown, endless champagne breakfast. So by 10 a.m. when we go safari again, I'm feeling really nice. It's very fun. Yeah, the service was incredible. It was just a really unbelievable morning. Like I said, got back in the cars, safaried all day, and had another night camping. We were terrified. One of the women I met that ended up becoming a friend of mine, she said she had hyenas running into her tent, and then they just like ran away laughing. Like, you little pills, what? That's not funny to me. So we were all pretty scared for the second night. And something they didn't really share with us the first night is that they do have a guard out there with a gun, so nothing's, people are looking out for you, should worst case scenario happen. But the second night, there was a herd of buffalo blocking the bathroom. So that became its own whole thing. And again, I was like, okay, they wouldn't do this if they thought we were in danger. But one of the guys is just, he walks like a whole team of us to the bathroom so we can use the toilets, brush our teeth. He's like throwing rock at the buffalo, and I was like, no, you didn't do that. What if they stampede at us or something? So I like go find my own corner to hide in, and then I was like, wait, no, I have to use the potty. What am I doing here? But yeah, they so nonchalantly just, no, just walk through the herd, you're fine. I was not fine. But I slept a lot better that night, I think, because I must have been just so exhausted from the last 9 days of my life. Made it through the night, everyone was fine. See, we're all happy. It's me in the middle here, my friend Nikki. I believe his name was Ian. And then we went to, I believe, forgive my pronunciation, Ngorongoro Crater. I wish I remembered some of the history around this place, but it was absolutely stunning. Totally different part of Tanzania. And as we get down into the crater, there's just thousands. Did you go? You did? Amazing. You've been too? Oh, who else has been? What? Wow. Does all this sound familiar to you? Amazing. Amazing. So yeah, just thousands of flamingos, zebras, wildebeest. It was just really, really beautiful. So safaried and picnicked through here. We're on a mission to find the big five. Help me. It's elephants, buffalo, lion, hippo, and the rhino. The rhino. We saw 4. We did not find a rhino. We spent most of this day in the crater trying to find the rhino, but we never saw him. And it's interesting too, and I'm sure you experienced this, all the safari guides are kind of calling each other like, we found one, get your car over here. It's really cool. Some zebra booties and the wildebeest. Lots of wildebeest. Yeah, I think we just missed the annual migration between Kenya and Tanzania. Did you see it?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's like that many animals as far as you can see.
Yeah, can't imagine. Very cool. And then we had one more night of camping, and I was so glad it was the last, because in this night, however many zebra are standing out there, but at least they seem a little more approachable. And then this sweet little ostrich here. And that concluded the safari adventure, and I believe I was done camping after all this, and I have to say I was really relieved. And then this was the moment I had been waiting for, all of those painful, terrible moments climbing up Kilimanjaro. I just kept thinking about Zanzibar. Zanzibar is a little island off the east coast of Tanzania. And again, like I said, known for its spice trade. So we spent just about a day, I think, touring through Stone Town, which is one of the kind of major hubs there. And then we went on a spice tour, which was awesome. And I didn't know anything about how peppercorns are grown. I didn't know what cinnamon bark actually was. I didn't know it was just, cinnamon was just the bark of a tree. It was great. The aromas, we got to like taste some of the spices. It was really awesome. And then we made it to the beach. I mean, it was the stuff of dreams. I, again, was picturing this for the last, at this point, 2 weeks, and it felt really good. The trips just started like up here, literally and mentally and metaphorically, and just got a little bit easier as the days went on, and it was just so lovely to end here. And again, just learning a little bit about local cultures. My friend Nikki here is fearless and will just go talk to anyone, make friends with any of the locals. And so, a bunch of people are kind of pitching you on like, join my boat, come do this activity with me. But she meets this guy and she's like, will you just take me and my homies out? And he was like, okay. So we all went out. This ended up kind of being my crew. So we had Nikki here. This was my tent mate, Lily. We called them Mom and Dad. They were a bit of an older couple, but extremely active. They made it up Kilimanjaro with us. They were on the whole journey with us. They're from Australia. So the 5 of us ended up becoming pretty inseparable. But we're on this boat, I mean, that's just literally held together with like rope, and it was wild. It was so fun though. We went snorkeling out there. It was really beautiful. But these people, we still keep in touch. A year later, Lily just summited Mont Blanc in, oh gosh, I don't know if it's technically Switzerland or France or, somewhere in the Alps up there. So she's one of those beasts that wants to do all the summits. She did Everest Base Camp. So I have to say she was a very strong tent mate to have with me. I was very lucky to know her and spend time with her. And yet just another benefit of traveling, you make these lifelong friends all around the world, and it's really, really awesome. So I wanted to share their photos with you since they became so important to me on this journey. And this was our last day. Quick little beer and fish lunch before I had to head to the airport. It was very emotional. We wept a lot, saying goodbye to each other. But hopefully we'll see each other again. And yeah, that wound up the trip. At this point, I had been gone for 3 weeks. I started to think about work, and it felt like time to go home. It was a really, really big adventure. It was not exactly a restful vacation, but that's okay. Don't need that. I'm so grateful for the opportunity. I love that I got to do it. And I'm excited to share. I loved Africa so much. I am going back to Namibia and Zimbabwe. I get 1 night in South Africa, but this one's going to be a lot less stressful. A lot less camping, much more just cruising around and adventuring through the desert. And then in Zimbabwe, we get to go to Victoria Falls. And I mean, who knows what that will hold. I'm sure some big adventure there, but really looking forward to it. Again, the profound way in which you're filled with compassion and understanding with these humans around the world that you otherwise wouldn't get to understand if you didn't actually go there and get to meet them and hear their stories and understand where they and their families come from. So I know there's some more for good moments because I'm going with the same company where we get to go meet local families and dine in their homes, and really looking forward to that. And maybe if Grandma invites me back, I'll get to share with you that adventure, but I doubt it will be as insane. So stay tuned. But that's all I have for you. Any questions?
When you were camping on the Serengeti, how did they provide food for you?
Yeah, so his question was, how did they provide food for us in the Serengeti? That is a good question. And honestly, a lot of the food was really similar to the food packed on Kilimanjaro, so a lot of just like dried goods. I'm actually a vegetarian, I don't eat meat. So So they do a lot of dried goods, either like a rice or a pasta, and then kind of like a stew of veggies, and then maybe like a stew of meat. So it was a lot of the same cuisine we had on the mountain. But I believe in addition to our safari guide, there was a cook with us as well, who took care of everything. We didn't really have to think about our food at all.
How did they cook?
His question was, how did they cook? Honestly, I don't know. That part felt like magic to me.
On our tour, they had solar ovens that picked up the sun and actually got hot enough to cook things. I mean, it was incredible.
Wow. Yeah, I don't know. That's a great question. I never really saw that kind of behind the scenes.
We probably traveled at a little higher level than you.
Yeah, like I
couldn't have handled what you did.
Yeah, I don't know that I could handle it again either. It was very intense. Yeah.
What are you planning for next?
What?
Yeah, have you made plans for another journey?
Yes. So his question was what my next journey plans are. So just in September, in 2 months from now, I will be getting on a plane to South Africa, and I'll spend a night in South Africa, and then I have 10 days in Namibia. The Namibian desert is the world's oldest desert, and this is a photo of it actually, where just like the red, like Arizona meets the ocean, and I am so excited to go see that. We can go sandboarding down some of the sand dunes, take helicopter rides. It's going to be very exciting. And then next year I want to go to Borneo to see the orangutans, but we'll see. This one first. Yes?
When I was young, you could go to the State Fair or Okoboji. Now the young people, they go all over the world. Who's your sugar daddy?
I'm happy to tell you, so his question was, who's my sugar daddy? Well, I am a young, thriving, single female business owner, and I am my own sugar mama.
You're the next banker. What's your profession?
I'm a co-founder of a software services company.
Okay, well, good.
Yeah.
We take you on as an accountant.
Great. Thank you for your question. Yes.
What country was Lily from?
Lily is Canadian. Yeah, Lily, my tent mate, is from Canada.
She's done well.
Yes, Mary, I believe.
What company do you travel with?
What company do I travel with? This was actually, so my trip to Tanzania was my first time ever going with a tour company. In the past, I've always just gone on a whim and figured it out myself, which is also weird behavior. But the tour company was great. They're called G Adventures, and they are a partner or maybe even a subsidiary of National Geographic. And so that's who I'll be going to Namibia and Zimbabwe with. Yes?
You referred to the large animals as buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
We were told they were wildebeest.
There's both.
There's both.
Yeah.
We didn't see buffalo, we just saw them.
Oh.
The Great Migration, the wildebeest, no, the zebras go first and eat the taller grass so that the wildebeest can catch.
Oh, is that right? Oh, fascinating.
Repeat.
Yeah, so she's talking about the Great Migration that happens every year between, I believe it's just between Kenya and Tanzania. She said that the zebras kind of start the migration so that they can eat the taller grass, and then as the wildebeest follow behind the zebra, they will eat the shorter grass. Is that right? Okay, and we went just after the Great Migration, so we did not see that. And her other question was a difference between the wildebeest and the buffalo. So I don't believe the buffalo are in the Great Migration, but they are. There was plenty of buffalo, and they're like the big horned, really intimidating guys standing outside your bathroom at midnight. Any other questions? Yes.
Yeah, how many were on your tour?
I believe my tour was, it started with 12 going up Kilimanjaro, and then a few people left, and then several people joined. I think it was 14, and then same thing for Zimbabwe. No, I did not go to Zimbabwe. I went to Zanzibar, excuse me. Some people broke off, and then we had some new people join. So the way the itineraries work, you can kind of create your own legs. So a lot of people had differently structured trips. Yeah.
Did you ever find out what was bumping into the tents the first night in the Serengeti?
Her question was if we ever found out what was bumping into our tents the first night in the Serengeti. Well, based on what I heard the other people saying, they said it was hyenas, and they could tell from their distinct evil chuckle. Sinister little guys. But then, actually, I think it was after the second night, one of the guards asked if we heard the lion in the night. And I was like, you need to go away. Yes?
Was there any illness, and if so, did you have someone to care for you?
Great question. Nobody got ill. And honestly, really impressively, no one even really got ill. Our entire group made it up the summit of Kilimanjaro. We only saw a couple people kind of getting escorted down. But in terms of people taking care of each other, I mean, yeah, that's really just the community you create, you know. My tent mate Lily was a really good emotional caretaker for me, especially on Kilimanjaro. And the guides were as well. I had a full-blown panic attack on day 3. I just spiraled out of control. Like, what if something happens to my mom? I'll never know. And I just spiraled from there, crying, like heaving. I just lost it, and the guides just uplifted me. So it was really a wonderful, beautiful community. Any other questions? Amazing. Well, thank you for taking time out of your evening to hear my story. Really appreciate it.